The NFL is back. Let's go! Welcome back to the webcast All Sports One Web, and it is the kickoff to the 2023-2024 NFL season as the Kansas City Chiefs will host the Detroit Lions and lift the banner tonight at Arrowhead. And so that means it is prediction time. We are going through all of the divisions and picking who are the contenders and who will be the eventual division winner for each division in the NFL this season, and we are kicking it off with the AFC South. What an ending to the season this division had, with not only the Texans kind of throwing away first overall pick to Carolina, and ending up second, picking C.J. Stroud, see how he will do. The Colts drafting their rookie quarterback of the future in Anthony Richardson, and of course Jacksonville and Tennessee fighting for the top of that division last year. Tennessee losing 5 consecutive games to give the top of the division to the Jags, who ended up winning their first playoff game in a while with Trevor Lawrence. They get Calvin Ridley back. Tennessee added DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. How will he do? So let's dive in here. The Colts and Texans, I think, are a unanimous not contenders this year. Too much up in the air. Jonathan Taylor on the PUP list for Indianapolis. Are they going to trade him after 4 games? Are they going to keep him? Is he going to hold out? Is he going to play? Is he going to get a contract extension? What's going to happen after those 4 games? Fantasy managers don't know. I don't think Jim Irsay knows. So for me, the Colts are looking at trying to get that number 1 pick. Try to give as much experience to Anthony Richardson as they can. Who knows? Maybe if you end up with it, the number 1 pick, you can go with Caleb Williams. This is the Who Wants to Get Caleb Williams sweepstakes this year with a couple of teams. Both of these will be in the mix, and they get to try out their rookie quarterback and see what they got in C.J. Stroud with the Texans and Anthony Richardson with the Colts, and we'll just see where they land. That leaves the 2 power hitters from last year in the division, the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Tennessee are going to surprise a lot of people. I know they had a disappointing end to last season, but adding DeAndre Hopkins, I think a lot of people are writing him off, especially from the fantasy perspective, because Ryan Tannehill is going to be his quarterback. But we've seen A.J. Brown in that offense a couple years ago. Derrick Henry is going to continue to produce as well. That opens things up in the passing game. A.J. Brown with Ryan Tannehill a couple years ago was kind of how A.J. Brown burst onto the scenes. I think established wide receiver that plays 95% of all snaps for his team over the years. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be perfectly fine. Jacksonville adding Calvin Ridley is going to be incredible. That offense is going to be flying, so that's going to be fun to watch as Trevor Lawrence tries to take another step. So there are our division contenders for the AFC South as we move into the AFC West now. One of the best divisions in football last year was Russell Wilson going to perform well. We can obviously see that was no. The Chargers just plagued with injuries throughout the entire season, and the Raiders couldn't coach their way out of a paper bag last year. I have that causing an issue again this year. I think they will finish bottom of the division. I hope Jimmy G can come in and create that partnership with Devontae Adams. Josh Jacobs in the backfield, I think, will still be the bell cow and keeping them in games that they maybe not have any business in. But I think they just have too many issues to compete in such a great division. Now on to the Broncos, who Russell Wilson just was not performing well last year. He was going through a lot of personal distress. He wasn't able to prepare for games after losing his close friend, I think right before the season started or in the summer. And I think that took a toll on him. Bringing in Sean Payton is going to be, a great attempt to steady the ship. However, he is causing so much noise. I think they will have a turnaround. I just think it'll happen too late in the season to allow them to have any chance at this division, which means the 2 contenders for me for the AFC West this year is Justin Herbert, who is going to be with the new offensive coordinator contending for the MVP, in my opinion, and the Kansas City Chiefs, who, let's be honest, they're just the Chiefs, and they will be there every year that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are the starting quarterback and coach. Now we'll move over to the NFC East. Let's start with Washington Commanders. Why are you not offering Chase Young a extension, just allowing him to go into his 5th year, possibly hitting a free agency? I don't know what problems that's going to cause, but Bieniemy being the head coach already seems to be a problem with the players. Not having good contract negotiations seems like a problem. And in this tough division where teams are just stacked top to bottom, I think Washington has no chance. The Giants, I think, finishing with 9 wins last year, finishing above expectations is great, but what did they do in the offseason besides have trouble signing Saquon Barkley? They were able to get him penned down, but they paid $14 million a year now for Darren Waller, which is great, but they overpaid for Daniel Jones, and I think that is just going to be why they're capped around 9 wins this year. I don't see them getting anywhere close or more than that, and in this division, that's just not going to be enough. That leaves the NFC champion, Philadelphia Eagles, and runner-up last year, Dallas Cowboys, as division contenders once again this year. As we move on over to the I have the Bills over here. Let's move on over here then to the NFC North. So we will start with the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, adding DJ Moore is a great option, but I just don't think it's going to be enough offensive weapons for Chicago to be able to stay in some of these games throughout the season, especially in this kind of division where we know Detroit's offense is going to be there. Minnesota was able to score with the best of them whenever they could, keep their act together. Green Bay, I think, has a solid foundation. They have a good identity in the run game with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and I think the Bears just will not be able to compete there. So for me, I think all 3 of these teams have the ability to contend for the division. So I'm going to throw all 3 of them up here in the NFC North, and we're going to move on to the worst division in football this year, and that is the NFC South. We have Atlanta Falcons with a second-year quarterback, a rookie running back who's going to carry the entire team or be forced to carry the entire team. We'll see if Bijan Robinson can be that guy, can be that dude that I thought would win the Heisman last year in that Texas offense. He did not. We'll see if he can now carry the Atlanta Falcons in a division that saw 1 game separate last place and first place last year, all around sitting around 500. Super excited to see Bryce Young at Carolina, see how he will do. He will have free reins this year. No matter their record, he's going to get the reps, and we'll get to see how he develops. I think he was the better number 1 pick, and that's coming from an Ohio State fan here, over C.J. Stroud in the draft. I think Bryce Young has that poise, that maturity already that a lot of these rookie quarterbacks coming in do not have. I think it's going to be a wake-up call regardless because it is the NFL, but I think Carolina are going to put it together. It's just going to be too late for them, and so I have them as not a contender this year. Tampa Bay signing Baker Mayfield, having such a old roster. We'll see what Rachaad White can do in the backfield. Is kind of that young gun with the backfield all to himself. We'll see what he can do, but I just don't think it's going to be enough for them to contend, which leaves us with the Saints. Signing Derek Carr, I think, is not talked about enough. And if you go back to our prediction video here on the webcast, last year we were all about Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints in this division. Granted, they finished only 1 game out of the division, so we weren't too far off. But Derek Carr coming here to New Orleans with something to prove after all of the turmoil in Las Vegas last year, I think is going to – it's not talked about enough. I think in a conference of the NFC that don't have stars at quarterback, you could see Derek Carr be the best performing quarterback in the NFC this year, right up there with obviously Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. And so I think that they have a great chance at this division, and whether or not these young pieces in Atlanta can come together and get something rolling. I don't think it's going to take a lot to win this division, especially when you look at the schedules that they all have. And so I'm going to roll with either of those as contenders in the division. As we move over to the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals letting DeAndre Hopkins go, just letting him go, putting Kyler Murray on the PUP list, getting rid of Cliff Kingsbury might be the best decision that they made this year. And it's just not going to amount to anything. I think they will be joining the Texans and the Colts in the battle for the worst record in the NFL this year, and I don't see them getting off the ground at all, especially if you're not going to play Kyler Murray in the beginning of the season. Los Angeles Rams, Cooper Kupp with the hamstring injuries, and if you are any type of soccer fan out there, you know, and you've seen it before, as soon as the ball starts rolling on hamstring injuries, it will continue and continue and continue and be quicker and quicker and quicker. I do not see Cooper Kupp lasting the entire season. You sold your entire future to get that Super Bowl, and you got it. Matthew Stafford, an aging quarterback, weapons minus Cooper aren't the greatest there, from running back to wide receiver. See what Higbee can do, but overall, I think they just will not have enough division. And so that leaves us with San Francisco going all in on Brock Purdy. But with that kind of roster, it doesn't matter if you have the popcorn man at quarterback. They will be there or thereabout in the division. Seattle going all in with Geno Smith, hoping that they can come back here and contend for that division. He had MVP numbers and to start the season, tailed off there at the end. We'll see what he can do, but definitely going to be a contender so far in the division for me in the NFC West. As we now move to the AFC East, Von Miller not active for week 1. When will he come back? We will see, but Buffalo seemed to have maybe gotten through that Stephon Diggs issue. They have DeMar Hamlin back. Everyone has him as the comeback player of the year. I think that will go a long way. When you look at the schedule that they have, the games and the teams that they will be playing, I think they will be right there and get a good snapshot of what the playoffs will look like with their schedule and beat the teams that they're going to kind of be competing with at the top of the AFC. One of those teams, in my opinion, is going to be the Miami Dolphins. I think we need to include them there as division contenders. Tua being healthy this year, adding Jalen Ramsey on the defensive side of the ball is going to be incredible once he comes in. They were amazing at home last year and terrible on the road. All the jokes about the Dolphins in their teal uniforms can't play in the winter. We will see if they can turn that around. You get a couple more wins than you did last year, picking them up on the road, and they will be right there atop the AFC, not just the AFC East. Now, between Mac Jones finally getting an actual offensive coordinator, it's just Mr. O'Brien. And so we've seen what he's done in Houston and previous stints. And I just don't see it as enough for the Patriots to be able to surpass what they did last year. Leaning on the run game is their only chance of success. I just don't think it's enough in this high of a division that now brought in Aaron Rodgers to join one of the best defenses in the league with the New York Jets. And I think there is no other option but to put them as division contenders. You have a team that lost a majority of their games by not scoring more than 20 points. They usually don't allow that many points, but if Aaron Rodgers can just get them to score that extra touchdown with Garrett Wilson being an improving player, entering his second year after becoming Offensive Rookie of the Year, that connection with Aaron Rodgers is going to be huge. If they could add a couple more touchdowns, they will be right there in the mix. Breece Hall coming back from an ACL. We'll see how he goes, but that defense will keep them in every single game this year, and it will give them a chance. And now one of the most excited divisions for me this year is the AFC North. Baltimore, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers. And this is where I think I will surprise a lot of people. And let's start with them, and that is the Steelers. I have the Steelers winning their opening game of the season against San Francisco, but we will get to our NFL picks, which we do here every week on the webcast. We will do the Kansas City Detroit pick here at the end of this video, and then pick the rest of the games on the next video. But we will be picking every single game of the NFL season on ESPN Pick'em 2023 for the NFL season. So go ahead and make your account and get in there and pick along with us, and we will be competing to see who can get higher by the end of the season. And one of the picks I have this week as upset, I don't know, is if you call it an upset, because I just totally believe in the Steelers at home against San Francisco to start the year with having TJ Watt coming back, that defense getting ready to go. And I think that with their schedule, I think it's one of the weakest schedules top to bottom in the NFL. If they can win some of these harder games, I think they will have no trouble making the playoffs and definitely be contending for the division. Lamar Jackson got his contract in Baltimore. They added Odell. He's obviously coming off of his injury with his knee. Can he be that offensive weapon that they've been screaming out for? And how will J.K. Dobbins be now that he is entering the season healthy for the first time in 2 years? And I think with all of that, I think they will have no issue with their schedule and be division contenders. And the Bengals signing Orlando Brown to give Joe Burrow more time. That wide receiver core is one of the best in the league. They will definitely be there or thereabout in the AFC, let alone the AFC North. And that leaves the Cleveland Browns. And they are the wild card team for me. How will Deshaun Watson be? He played a couple games, was able to kind of ramp it up near the end of the season, game by game, gets a full training camp this year. That defense is still going to be solid, but I just think that it's going to take too long for them to ramp it up, and they just will not be able to catch any of these three other teams in the AFC North. And so I will have to leave them out as not contenders this year. And so that leaves us now with picking division winners. Let's start back to the AFC South between Tennessee and Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence, I think, has his best season yet. Calvin Ridley, I think, will explode onto the scene. I think it will take him a couple more games than maybe other people will suggest. Christian Kirk is a great wide receiver to lean on in the meantime. That backfield, I think they'll start getting going with Travis Etienne. And I think Jacksonville will just be able to pull away from this. They finished the season so strong. I think they'll start better this year and just pull away with that division. But I think Tennessee will be solid and a tough out most weeks. Now let's move on to the AFC West, the Chargers and the Chiefs. Going through the schedule for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think it's just too difficult. It's already so hard to repeat as Super Bowl champions, but to continuously be the number one seed in the conference is just so incredibly hard. As you keep winning your division, you keep getting the hardest schedule, playing the number one teams in the other divisions that you get paired up with. And I think going undefeated again in the division like Patrick Mahomes has done over the last 4 years is just, it's going to run out. And I think that's going to cause them to lose a couple more games than we are used to. Travis Kelce, obviously starting off the season with an injury. Can Kadarius Toney stay healthy throughout the entire season? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Andy Reid is there. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is there, and so they're going to be there. They're going to be a game or two out from the first seed, I think, in the AFC. But I just think the Chargers, with the offensive weapons that they have, new offensive coordinator, I think it's just going to be too much for the Kansas City Chiefs to continuously keep up with record-wise. And so I think the Chargers will take the division this year, upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs. We picked them last year. Injuries prevented us from seeing how good the Chargers could be, as well as coaching. But we will see now with the new offensive coordinator and everything going on with those weapons, if the Chargers can pull it off. So we move to the NFC East. This division has had a division winning change every single year for the last, I don't even know how many years, 8, 9, 10 years. Last year, the Eagles won it. And so that just means the Cowboys are going to win it. Not just because of that trend, but when you sign one of the best corners of the last generation in Stephon Gilmore to pair with that linebacker crew, that Micah Parsons up front is just causing more and more havoc every year. Dak Prescott hopefully will not miss 5 games this year. That wide receiver core is one of the best in the league, adding Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb. And I think that they won 12 games last year. You add Stephon Gilmore to that, a healthy Dak for an entire season. I can't see them winning less than 13, 14 games. And it's going to be tough for anyone. Kansas City, the Chargers, the Eagles, anyone in the league, San Francisco, to kind of keep up with that kind of pace. And I have the Dallas Cowboys as the number 1 seed in the NFC, as well as the best record in the NFL. It is Super Bowl or bust for them, in my opinion. And they will win the NFC East this year. We'll move on to the NFC North, where we have 3 contenders. The Lions, we know the offensive weapons that they have. Getting rid of DeAndre Swift tells you how much faith they have in Gibbs coming in from Alabama as that universal Deebo Samuel, Cardell Patterson kind of role. He can catch it. He can run. He can be a wideout. He can be a running back. He can be anything you need and more. Jared Goff hopefully staying healthy and taking his turn to kind of prove himself, I think allows them with more upside than these other teams. Minnesota winning so many games by less than 1 possession, scoring 37 consecutive to beat the Colts last year. I mean, I think they have to regress record-wise, and that allows for the Detroit Lions to beat not only the Packers but the Vikings to the division title and book a spot in the playoffs and get a home game at Henry Ford Field, and that is just going to be so exciting to watch. We now move to the NFC South, Saints and the Falcons. I think the Falcons have the opportunity to do well. I think they're going to be relying on too much young talent from the quarterback, running back, tight end, and wide receiver position to really compile the wins that they're going to need. The Saints with Derek Carr, Chris Olave, I'm expecting a decent bounce back year after Michael Thomas has fallen off the earth for the last 3 years, and that is why I have the Saints winning that division. Let's move on to the NFC West between the Seahawks and the 49ers. For me, I think that defense of the 49ers is going to be too much. Geno Smith had an MVP season for about 8 weeks last year. It dropped off near the end of the season, and I just think that he won't be consistent for long enough to be able to sustain the record that stacked San Francisco team will have. And that is why I have San Francisco winning that division. The AFC East, one of the hardest divisions to pick. Miami, I expect to be just an offensive juggernaut. The Jets, I kind of put in the same group actually as Green Bay in terms of just a well-rounded team. We'll see if Breece Hall can come back from that ACL injury and perform. Love the defense. They're going to be in every single game. Buffalo, I think Von Miller will come back. He is healthy. He's a medically cleared scratch to start the season. And I think with him coming back, I think it's just going to be another year of Buffalo doing too well and just escaping Miami and the Jets, who I think their faults are Miami with Tua, if Tua gets hurt, and the O-line for the Jets with that running back. If you're going to make the Jets one-dimensional with Aaron Rodgers, he didn't have over a single game last year with the Packers of over 300 yards passing. That defense will keep them in games, but I just think it won't be enough to keep up with the Bills. So we move on to the AFC North. Steelers, Ravens, and Bengals, one of the best divisions in football, in my opinion. I think the Bengals, with more time, with that improved offensive line and those weapons at wide receiver, will be too much. But I have the Steelers and Ravens both making the playoffs. That is 3 teams from the AFC North making the playoffs, in my opinion, which, yes, means that the Dolphins and the Jets most likely will be missing out of the playoffs, but we will see how all of that ends up shaking out. But there you have it. My division winners for the NFL: Jags, Chargers, Bills and Bengals from the AFC, Cowboys, Lions, Saints, and 49ers in the NFC. And it's going to be an amazing season. I do feel like there is a lot of top heavy and bottom heavy teams this year. And so I think those matchups between the heavy hitters are going to play a big role in overall seeding, and then they're on the playoffs. And I think schedule matters a lot more this year than maybe in past years. And there we have it. There are my 8 teams making the playoffs. And so now let's go. We got 30 minutes before the kickoff to the NFL season this year in Kansas City, in Arrowhead. Lift the banner. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to. There we go. And 90% picking the Chiefs. Lift the banner and let's see what they can do. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, undefeated. I mean, the record off bye weeks, the record in the start of the season is just unmatched. You're lifting a banner in one of the best stadiums in the NFL. I can't see anything but a Kansas City win here. No Jones up front, though, I think will allow Detroit to try some things out, especially with Gibbs entering his first NFL game. What a game to enter the season or his career. And I think they can learn a lot from this game. I just think Kansas City will be a little bit too much. And that is why I got the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. Go ahead and make your picks here on ESPN and track along with us as we go for the number 1 spot in the NFL picking. And until next time, from all of us at the webcast, adios.